Hello there. Welcome to a special Fast Money Football edition. James Sharman here with Sarah. And what a day it is, Sarah. I'm sure it is the first time in your life. It's not the first time in my life, but Canada drawn into a World Cup. First of all, before we get to the nuts and bolts of the team and of the group itself, was it as surreal for you as it was with John Herdman?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it was. It was bizarre to see the Canadian flag in the draw, right? Like as you mentioned, I've never seen Canada in a World Cup. Like I'm still looking at this group being like, does that make sense? Does that work there? So yeah, it's incredible. Like it's of course amazing, but I am still kind of like, huh, look at us.
Yeah, it's odd, isn't it? In true FIFA fashion, though, I found it kind of incredulous once the whole graphics opened up the whole ceremony, and the first thing they did, the most important thing that FIFA thought they should do was to introduce the mascot. For crying out loud, I hate mascots. I don't care what sport it is, especially I hate World Cup mascots.
You don't
And that
like
little
Naib?
little bugger. Is Naib? Is that his name? Little Naib. He's gonna ruin this thing for me. I know he is. Why,
Yours.
why were they doing that? Why wouldn't you get to the good stuff straight away? I'm not so much the draw, but the heroes, the teams, the storylines. Why?
Yeah,
Why a
no,
mascot?
it's I mean, it's all money, isn't it, right? Like we can tell it's so blatantly obvious, but your Twitter was incredible during the draw. I was live here with some of the parlay and I also was going through my Twitter just laughing at everything you were saying because it seemed to be the consensus of like the overall population. Everyone was just like, okay, are we getting to the draw? Are we doing this? You're introducing the mascot. You're having several songs. What's going on?
Yeah, it's what they do, right? I mean, whether it's UEFA or FIFA, they manage to always, go over the top. Now, we criticize it now, but in 4 years' time, we'll be doing the same thing, but it'll be Canada and USA and Mexico doing some abomination of some
Oh,
kind of ceremony, right? So I'll be as critical then, I promise, as I am now. But to the important stuff, Canada drawn it into a group that I'm actually pretty happy with. And I know John Herdman is keeping his cards close to his chest, Sarah,
mm,
but he's got to be pretty happy, I think, with how that turned out, given that it's not easy. There's no easy groups this year, actually, but it's not the worst group possible. Belgium, of course, are world beaters. Their golden generation might be aging a bit now, but they're still, for me, a top side. Number one until this past week in the world. Croatia, you got Luka Modric. Enough said. Again, yeah, they're aging. Yeah, they're losing their legs, but it's still Croatia, still a really formidable opponent. And Morocco, who probably think, just like Canada, you know what? We might have a chance here as well. I mean, when you saw that group and Canada being pulled as the last name out of the hat, so to speak, were you optimistic this could be perhaps a longer World Cup than we thought?
I was a bit gutted that we were left to the end because it did seem a bit unlucky. I won't lie, I don't think I'm as optimistic as you are. This is a tough group. Not to say that Canada can't do anything with this group, but every team in this group is going to be tricky. I think, I see like you said, there are most of these groups are actually quite difficult, but I see Group A. Maybe would have liked Canada to be in there, or even with France's group. I mean, they have France, but then you have Switzerland. You have probably what's going to be Peru,
Denmark, put
Tunisia.
Denmark in there, right?
Oh,
Denmark and
sorry,
Tunisia.
you're right. Yeah, it's Denmark. It's not
Yeah,
Switzerland. Yeah,
still.
exactly. I don't know. I think there were a few other groups I think I would have liked to see Canada go in, but yeah, being drawn last, it was just that. There you go, shove it right in there. So yeah, I'm not sure. I feel like the next 7 months it's just going to be breaking down each of these teams,
Yeah.
with a fine tooth comb, and it's going to be tough.
I'm happy though the group it was. I mean, because I'm not saying they're going to walk through this group or even get out of this group. I think if they get out of the group, it'll be a slight surprise. I do. Um, but I just think there are points in that group that Canada's capable of getting. Maybe not Belgium. If you write off that first game, November 23rd, I think they can pick up points against this aging Croatia team and this Moroccan team. And I'm happy that there's a big team with stars in this group. I didn't want Group A. I didn't want Qatar. There's four. They've got four teams for crying out loud. It's not fair. Ecuador, Senegal's a really good team. Netherlands, could be fantastic, could be awful. It's a tough group, but hasn't got that X factor. I like having Belgium in this group in particular. So, I'm not saying I'm confident, but like John Herdman said post draw, It is tournament football. And anything can happen. But he also said, which I found really interesting, said on a couple of occasions that this first World Cup for these guys, the first one's always about just enjoying yourself, taking it in, absorbing the environment, and then building for the next World Cup. So, it's a little bit unlike John Herdman, who, is from day one said, we're going to qualify for World Cups. He's kind of saying, listen, yeah, anything can happen, but we should be the underdog in this one. And it's not about necessarily progressing, it's about experiencing it. So I think you may have seen a slight shift there in John Herdman. Is very much a realist in this occasion.
Yeah, no, I completely agree though as well. I think we were talking about this during the live stream, during the draw as well, because we're hosting it in 2026. We have an automatic walk into the tournament, which is great. So we don't have to, focus on all these qualifying games as much that we had to this time around. But the gaining of the experience in this World Cup is going to play, I think, such a major factor into the 2026 World Cup, because none of these guys have played in a World Cup before. They're playing teams like Belgium, Croatia. They've been going to World Cups, Morocco even. So I think a lot of it is just like getting the experience of what it's like to play in the toppest of top tournaments, and figuring out that kind of style of play. Like, tournament style is so difficult, because if one team is having a bad day, that's it. You could beat a team like France. A team like Canada could theoretically beat France if France was just having a poor day. So it's going to teach them so much, which I think it's great that Herdman is looking at it from this perspective, because everything that Canada does in this World Cup is going to be something they learn.
It's a great point. It's a great point. And, every World Cup, that first game for the big teams can always be that banana skin. So it's almost, a good thing, I think, that Canada's playing Belgium in that first game. They might take them lightly. I can't see Roberto Martinez really doing that. He's, like I said, they're so used to tournament football. They understand you can't, underestimate any opponent. But if they're going to underestimate a team in this group, it's probably going to be Canada. Yeah. And given the way their star performers are performing right now, Romelu Lukaku is not the same player he was, even a year ago, or far from a year ago, right? Now, I still think he's pretty great for his country. There's some question marks there. Eden Hazard probably won't even be there. You got some great talent, don't get me wrong. De Bruyne is fantastic, but he could be hurt. He's always hurt. Now we're going to be just hoping and praying that someone goes over the ball on a Man City match early next season and takes De Bruyne out. Is that too much? Is that cruel?
It's a bit much.
Yeah.
No, but it's funny, because this is the first time where we're seeing a World Cup draw, and then we're not going to see the tournament, 3 months down the line. There's just over 7 months until the World Cup. Anything can happen. We have seasons to finish. We have new seasons to start. Like, even though, we're assuming a lot about the teams that Canada's going to be playing right now, you're right. When we don't really know what this team is going to be when we go to the World Cup. And that's the same for us too. Like, it's really important that we keep our players fit, that our players stay, playing the way they have been playing, like, fantastically. So I think it's really interesting to see how that's going to play out for all teams that are, in the tournament, because they could change. They could drastically change.
It's so strange, because usually by the World Cup draw, you have a good idea of what your opponents will look like and what all the teams will bring to that World Cup. But like you said, you got the summer off, apart from obviously the MLS players, and you got a brand new season, by which time many players will be at different clubs. A lot of these Canadian boys will be at different clubs by the time August comes around, they kick off. So who knows who's in form? And I know John Herdman said we're staying loyal with the guys that got us here, but I think he was talking to those players, and in the Panama game and Jamaica game, keeping that squad intact. He can't be saying we're going to be commit to those guys for a tournament in December, because who knows? Steven Vittoria is 35 now. I love Steven Vittoria. What a soldier, a warrior he's been for this country. Mm-hmm. But that's still a few months away. Is he going to be healthy? Is he going to be the same player he's been in the last few months? Atiba's 39, right? He's going to be out of a club. His contract's out of contract this summer. I can't imagine why Besiktas wouldn't offer him something. He'll get a job somewhere. But again, there's so many intangibles here for this squad. It's going to be fascinating just thinking about who they might select, who's available. There'll be some kids who haven't been capped yet, who John Herdman's, right now are seducing, calling down the phone, breathing heavily down there, saying, come on, come with us. I really think that it's going to be a fascinating squad to kind of dissect when that's funny named. It could be quite different, at least a little bit different to what we've seen recently. But let's quickly go through some of the other groups here. The group of death, it has to be Group E, right? Spain, and then, of course, that Intercontinental Playoff 2 team, whoever that's going to be, probably Peru, I guess, and then Germany and Japan. It's not like a an awful group of death, but it's pretty severe, isn't it?
It's not Germany. It's not Peru. It's Costa Rica and New
Oh,
Zealand.
sorry, that's right, Costa Rica. Yeah, so
I
Costa
reckon
Rica and
it'll
New
be
Zealand.
Costa Rica,
Right.
who, as we just know, play some pretty darn good football.
Yes, they do.
I am, as a Spanish fan, very tired of getting into the group of death consecutively for the third time now. I'm sick of it. I'd like a nicer, easier group. But, you know, the one thing I was thinking is a lot of these teams, when they play tougher teams from jump, they tend to, you know, they get into the mentality quicker, right? You know, it's just every game's going to be tough. That's how we have to do it. And also, if they end up making it to the final, who knows? At least you could say, well, they deserved it because they went through, you know, all these crazy nations. But yeah, I am excited to see them play what I think will be Costa Rica and Japan, because we haven't seen Spain play, you know, these two teams. It'll be some really interesting football. Japan's a solid side as well. I think that'll be very exciting. And, you know, the last time Spain and Germany played each other, Spain ran them over 6-0. Germany's not going to be pleased with that. Lots of changes going on there. We really see Kai Havertz come into his own with this team as well, and with Chelsea. So I think it's going to be a very different game than the game that we saw last November. But yeah, it'll be exciting. I will be cheering for, you know, the boys, but I'm very concerned, very stressed. Not to mention that this will be the group that, if Canada goes through, we'll have to play most likely Spain or Germany. So that's...
Yeah, I know. So let me ask you this. I'll ask all my friends who have other allegiances, myself included. You know, if it is Canada playing Spain in the round of 16, right? It sounds crazy, right? But if that's the case, where will your allegiance lie?
No one's gonna like that I say it, but it has to be Spain. Only I grew up watching Spanish football. I didn't grow up. I grew up watching the Canadian women's side, to be honest. I
Right.
them, but it's, you know, Canada didn't have a team that was, you know, competitive for so long. So I would love for Canada to do well. And if it happens where Canada somehow plays Spain and goes through, I would still be happy for them. But I've grown up watching all these Spanish players come and go, and it's a bit different, you know.
Well, let's give it 7 months, shall we? Because you'll be talking about Spain and Canada throughout the summer, and you know there'll be so much Canada stuffed down our throats all summer. Either you'll love them even more, or you'll be like, I'm sick of these guys. Oh, if I hear another John Herdman quote, I'm going to kill someone. Right? So maybe, and they may push you even further towards Spain. I suspect that won't be the case. I'm an England fan. I've been an England fan my whole life, obviously. But I'm Canada for this.
Yeah,
there's no doubt. If that happens, and you know, I think they might meet them in the final. That's the pathway for Canada and England to meet. So I think I'm pretty safe.
Okay, so you've got the final all sorted. England and Canada. Canada will win. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. No problem at all.
I mean, your group, England, your other group, I should say. I mean, USA, like that's a rivalry. And I will say, so my dad is from Iran, so there's also some ties there. And just the politics of this group is
that's what it's about.
Interesting.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the first time the States have played Iran at a big tournament, but it's always, you know, shrouded in political intrigue and what's happening away from the pitch, of course. But I think England, Gareth Southgate, the manager, must be just delighted with this group. It could be a Scotland or a Wales in there too, mind you. You know, and
or the Ukraine.
I know everyone's favorite team now, right? They'll be the neutral's favorite.
Yeah, no, it could be really like this. I think anyone who goes through, really, just because, you know, Wales and Scotland have their own rivalry with the UK as well. So I mean,
and I hate it when they play in any. I mean, England's a much better team than both Scotland and Wales, with respect to Gareth Bale, right? But they are. But when they play, whether it's Wales or Scotland, they play so hard against England because they despise them so much. It's never an easy match. And was it a Euro? Wasn't it last time out? Is when Wales played England so hard, almost cost them in the end.
I think this group it'll be some exciting football, regardless of what happens. It's going to be really tough.
Yeah, I agree. Quickly perusing the others. We mentioned Group A. Group C, Argentina, Saudi Arabia, Mexico, Poland. A lot of controversy around Saudi Arabia right now, whether they should even be there after a lot of female women fans were tear gassed and pepper spray trying to get into a stadium a few days ago, which is just disgusting. But hey, it's the Qatar World Cup. To hell with human rights. So
Yeah,
I guess
I mean, it's like exactly like the fact that this World Cup is even happening in Qatar. I think we can kind of wipe all those thoughts away because we could argue that this World Cup shouldn't be happening at all, let alone Saudi Arabia competing.
you
Um,
know we should argue. I mean, I remember when this draw was made, when they first gave it to um, Qatar. I remember that day and just shaking my head, saying, "How is this possible? Like, will I even want to cover that World Cup?" Yet here we are, and it's still a news story. You have to cover it, but it's. I'm not happy having to cover it, if you know what I mean. I mean, it's a World Cup's a World Cup, but there's so many other elements that need to be discussed and showcased and highlighted here. It's
yeah.
just really pitiful and a bad look on FIFA that it's even here. Let's be honest.
Yeah, it's really bad that it got to this point. I mean, FIFA's always had a lot of controversy behind them, but I think we've now reached a breaking point where if fans of, other sports that aren't football fans are kind of looking at this being like, hold on a second, this doesn't seem right that there's a World Cup in November. What's going on? Oh, it's in Qatar. Well, how did that happen? So it's poor when, the rest of the international community can recognize the faults of FIFA as well.
Mind you, given that it's in Qatar and in the winter essentially, and given what happened with COVID and the Ukraine situation, I don't know how they would have figured this out if it was this summer. At this point, it would have
Yeah.
been really tricky, wouldn't it? So there's that, I suppose. But yeah, it's very unsavory in many, many ways. Quickly perusing the last two groups here, we haven't discussed Brazil, Serbia, Switzerland, Cameroon. To me, that's a really fun group. A really fun group. The Swiss play good football. Cameroon always brings something, of course, and Serbia is solid, and Brazil's still Brazil and world number one. I'm not sure they should be world number one. They're up there, but still, certainly the favorites in this group.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely. I think they were really lucky to have this group. I think Brazil is going to qualify to the next round with ease. But yeah, between the other three, I think it will be very close. And it's exciting to see Cameroon. Cameroon is such a football nation, with their history and stuff. And Switzerland always gives big team an issue. I'll never forget in the World Cup 2010 when they beat Spain in the first game of the group stage. And like you said, Serbia, and now they have Vlahovic too. He's becoming a really young star, and he's performing extremely well. So I think we will see Brazil really walk through this group, but between the other three, I think it'll be very fun football.
Yeah, it might be the group to watch in many ways. I think really entertaining football, some good drama in that one. And finally, Group H, Portugal, Ghana, Uruguay, and South Korea. Again, interesting. Really, I thought for a bit there that Canada was getting Portugal, which I would have really enjoyed because I've got so many Portuguese friends who would have just, had connections. But still, another fun group. And Portugal, your favorites there. But then it's a battle, I think, for that second place.
Yeah, I think so. What I love about this group is it's kind of like the actual world group. We have the Asian, the South American, the African, and the European team. I think it's so well rounded. And I think all these teams are relatively well matched for one another. Yeah, Portugal are the favorites, but they also haven't been doing as well as they should have been. They just qualified for the World Cup just a couple days ago. But yeah, I'm really excited to see this because South Korea, I think after Iran, is the best team in Asia. Uruguay has players like Cavani and Suarez, who it's their last World Cup. I think this might be the most exciting group to watch. Also because I have no ties, so emotionally, I'm just here for fun. But I think this is going to be such a fun group to watch.
And with Ronaldo and Luis Suarez, just so likable, aren't they both? So but a smile on the neutral's face watching those two go at it. Sarah, thanks so much for this. We're almost there. I say almost there. 7 months, but we've got a big window coming in June. Nations League game, and then John Herbert mentioned probably a game at home against, I think, a big team. It could be, I'm guessing in Argentina or in England at some point we'll be playing Canada. I think it really works out well for those teams and their current groups and who they're going to be playing against. So it's going to be a fun summer. 7 months. We're going to over-dissect this, over-analyze this. We're going to have a great summer, I think, just looking ahead to Canada's first World Cup in 36 years. So I say bring it on. Thanks, Sarah.